Okay, we'll be starting in just a moment. Please be patient. I need to start the live stream. As you can see, Anil is here with us. If you give me just a minute to get this started. Yeah. Very good. All right, thank you all for being here. And for today's career masterclass, how career paths have changed, pursuing success through lifelong learning. If you hear that noise in the background, it's because I have a cat. Anil Santhapuri is the Director of Learning and Development for Asia and Pacific for CGI. And he'll be giving the class today, but I'd like to start off with is an instruction, on how to participate in the webinar. If you're not familiar with WebEx controls, please put your questions for Anil in the Q&A box. And you can put chat messages in, we will see those, but the questions should go in the Q&A so we can keep track of those, and we'll ask those in the Q&A period of the webinar toward the end. We're going to be doing a couple of polls, and the first one here is a poll on how much work experience you have, so Anil can have an idea of the audience. So give me a moment to get that launched. And if you are watching on YouTube Live or LinkedIn Live, by all means, put your answers in the chat box or the comments. We'll just keep this open for about 30 seconds. The second question is about how you're feeling today. We've been asking that since the beginning of the pandemic, just to keep track of how people are doing. And in 10 seconds, we'll close the poll. Okay, so we see that the biggest portion of the audience, about 40%, are people with 10 years of experience. So we have a fairly experienced audience today, and the rest of the audience is pretty evenly split among the different experience levels. So Anil, that gives you an idea of who is with us today. And let me introduce you. As I mentioned, Anil is the Director of Learning and Development for Asia and Pacific for CGI. It's a multinational IT services company that develops systems for corporations around the world. And he is a recognized leader in learning and development, has been named personally as a leader in various awards and by various publications. So we are very lucky to have him here today, and welcome. And I'm going to go ahead and let you take over the, you're on mute. I'm going to let you.
Thank you. Thanks for the introduction and a warm welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on wherever you are joining from across the globe. So it's interesting. So one of the questions was, how are you feeling today? So I'm going to start by saying thumbs up from my side. And it's a very, and Steve, thanks a lot for doing this, especially asking that question, because this is my second webinar I'm doing with you. So it's very interesting to collaborate. But for the sake of audience, Steve and I did a dry run 12 hours ago, which was 9 p.m. for him in San Francisco, 8:30 or so, or 9 for me in the morning. And now 12 hours later, we're back here. So it's a very interesting connected world we're working in, where time zones don't matter. And before he came into that session, he had a long day. Now I had a long day. So it's very interesting. So it's important to ask each other how are we doing. That's really critical. So I'm really excited with spending time with all of you today. Especially, it's a very evolving topic. So I'll quickly share my screen, and if I can get a confirmation that you're able to see it, just give me a second. Yeah.
Yes.
And great to get a quick view on who's on the audience. More than 10 years of experience. It's very interesting. So I look forward to some good interaction and questions from all of you. So as the topic goes, it's called How Career Paths Have Changed, Pursuing Success Through Lifelong Learning. It's big. It's such a, I know it's a long topic, but it's such a very timely topic. And after pandemic, it's very important. It's on everybody's minds. But just to give you, Steve did was grateful to introduce me. But just to give a little more information about myself, and later you can look me up on LinkedIn and we can stay connected. I'm a mechanical engineer by education. Spent first 6 years of my career working in SAP ERP implementations, being an IT consultant, doing programming, doing CRM consulting. In between, in first couple of years of my career, I was even an entrepreneur, tried to set up and run a e-learning company, which failed miserably, but I carried the lessons with me. And then I moved to HR and learning. So if I look at my own experience, and typically I qualify as a millennial and at the cusp of being a Gen X and a Gen Y or a millennial. So it's very interesting that I actually had 3 different careers. I'm not talking about jobs, 3 different careers. So when I kind of presenting these slides and sharing some of these opinions, it's also coming from my own personal experience. So I have a total of 18, 19 years of experience, but I actually had 3 different careers. And who knows what the future is in store for all of us, right? So kind of giving that background. And I think one thing which helped me to navigate through this adventure is my ability to learn, or my passion for learning. So I thought I'll give you a little background. So there's a lot to cover. So let's jump right in. So we all are facing the winds of change. Sometimes easy to navigate, sometimes really difficult. At least last 2 years with pandemic, so many things have changed. So a couple of things which are actually changing the way we think, act, and work globally. Doesn't matter which industry you work in, doesn't matter whether you are from tech background, non-tech background, doesn't matter. Obviously, the intensity of impact would be different, but the winds of change are impacting everyone. And the 3 big winds of change coming our way is fourth industrial revolution. There's so much discussed about it since in World Economic Forum a couple of years back, they coined the term and said the fourth industrial revolution is here, primarily driven through something we call as emerging technologies. And these emerging technologies, there's no the usual suspects are, let's say, AI, ML, blockchain, IoT, VOT, analytics, so on and so forth, agile and DevOps. But the whole bit about fourth industrial revolution is it keeps changing contextually. Today, these technologies. Tomorrow, there could be something else. And what's very interesting about fourth industrial revolution is the interlinkages of technologies, how IoT, integrates with analytics, or IoT analytics with AI, or, blockchain is how the interplay is what's impacting the way we think, act, and work, and also blurring the boundaries of industries. So all the body of knowledge we have about careers and industries is blurring. Like, for example, very common examples, but let's say if I take example of Uber, in which industry would you qualify Uber? Transport industry, or is it a platform industry, or now they're also into food delivery? Now, what industry does Uber fall into? And therefore, if you're working for Uber, what industry do you fall into? And if you take example of a telecom giant in India, Airtel. Now they also have a digital wallet. They also have, you can even open a bank account with them. So are they telecom? Are they e-commerce? Are they bank? What are they? So it's very interesting, right? The boundaries are really blurring. So there's that huge change, rate of change of technology coming in, human adaptability. We are first time ever in history, I'll show the slide in next slide, where humans have to pull their socks literally and catch up with the rate of change of technology, and therefore changing nature of work. That's the first wind of change affecting all of us. Now the second wind of change is digital transformation, especially after pandemic. So all the organizations across various industries are in various stages of digital transformation and adoption. Any company first is now a tech company or a tech first company, or need to think tech first, doesn't matter which industry or what you service. And after pandemic, companies have actually doubled down investment in digital transformation, in automation, so on and so forth. I'll quickly touch upon that. So there's need for at-scale adoption of automation and at-scale adoption of digital transformation. Interestingly, the human adaptability in the first side moves into here, and therefore there's a huge skill gap for people, for all of us. Most of you on the call are over 10 years of experience. I qualify into the group, so we need to play a catch-up game, and that's what we call reskilling or upskilling. We'll discuss about that. The third wind of change is pandemic. Unfortunate the way it kind of affected the whole world, and we're still, different parts of the world are still grappling and coming out of pandemic. So it had a huge impact on how we look at work. So when you look at Gen Z or Gen Y, there's this famous word, which is a term which is coined to it, called YOLO. It's called You Only Live Once. Earlier, there was this famous term called FOMO, fear of missing out. So where all of us are glued onto our mobile phones, and we're kind of checking every notification because we have this fear of missing out. But what pandemic has done is, all of us have relooked at our lives, and where does my career, job fall into the overall scheme of things. Now people are taking, even in LinkedIn, some people have, I was talking to somebody, I saw the LinkedIn profile. In their profile, it says YOLO. I believe in YOLO philosophy, you only live once. So if you only live once, then what role does career play? There's a different, pandemic has led to all of those questions. So huge global experiments in terms of hybrid workforce, working virtually, working remotely, therefore changing work preferences because you only live once. And therefore, for organizations and also employees, all potential employees, how do you look at value proposition? So these are the big winds of change which are affecting everything, including, as I narrow down and zoom in a little later, about how careers are perceived by everyone in the industry. So little more details, as I mentioned in the earlier slide. First time ever in the history, humans are trying to play the catch-up game. If you see the exponential curve adoption of technology is exponential, whereas human, adaptability is like almost a not so steep slope. So we're at this interesting juncture where we need to play the catch-up game, and that's where the whole world is talking about reskilling, upskilling. That's the two terms you would hear. I'll also introduce another term called metaskilling in a moment. So very interesting book from Thomas Friedman called Thank You for Being Late. It's almost like we're already late to the party, and we need to ensure we play the catch-up game. So again, a very short expert from a hugely relevant report. I'll highly recommend all of you look it up. It's the World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report, came out October 2020, and it kind of projects into the future. How does future look like in 2025? Very detailed report, around 200 pages, free, available on World Economic Forum's website. I highly recommend all of you read it. One snapshot, but very important one. based on the research across industries, across generations, across all genders, what they found was these are the top 15 skills, which are relevant for future. Now, if you spare a minute and I'll go scan through these skills, something very interesting happens, and I'll explain it to you. Look at skill number 7, technology use, skill 8, technology design and programming, and skill 12, troubleshooting. Only 3 out of 15 skills are technology focused. Although we have 13, which is service orientation, which is more being customer oriented, which is always a mindset, right? So if so 7, 8, 12 are kind of technology focused. 13 is mindset. 14, system analysis and evaluation, is more a systems view towards solving problems, which is also probably a mindset and also applying a framework. So except for these 4, all other 11 skills are what we call higher order cognitive thinking or behavioral skills. Look at number 1, analytical thinking. Number 2, active learning. Number 3, complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, leadership, social influence, resilience, reasoning. So what this means is, and I've actually written an article which is published in HR magazine. I could share the link, or it's available on my LinkedIn post. Uh, so what this means is, in the skills of future perspective, the way winds of change are happening, all of us need to demonstrate higher order skills of cognition, of thinking, and how we manage our own emotions. And that's really critical because the daily churn, the churn activities, which can be automated through business logic, will be automated. So the only work left will be higher order kind of work, and which needs this higher order skills. That's a nice view to say, hey, it doesn't matter which industry I'm in, IT, I'm in consulting, I'm in manufacturing, I'm in, any other service industry, hospitality. These are the skills needed in most of the roles. It's very interesting to look at that perspective and start reflecting, how will your roles evolve, because the winds of change are going to evolve all of our roles over a period of time. Some industries will take longer time, some faster, but our roles are evolving and these are the skills needed. So we have 4 years. It's 1 year is already gone past, so you have 4 years to build the skills. And most of the skills here, I would coin them into the category called meta skills. And that's like the theme of the overall session anyway, calling lifelong learning, right? Meta skills are higher order skills, which when you acquire, it has 3 qualities. One is they're higher order skills. Second, they take a lot of time to acquire. You can't just go to a training session, come back and learn. It takes lifetime commitment or discipline to learn. So it's an ongoing journey. And third quality of a meta skill, it's very important, is once you have a meta skill, it will help you pick other skills faster. Let's take an example of skill number 9. In pandemic, all of us went through emotional turmoil. And through the emotional turmoil, we had to take care of our family, our friends, our career, our jobs. And those of us who could rebound faster, respond faster by being resilient, being stress tolerant, were able to do a better job compared to others. Therefore, resilience becomes a meta skill which will help you bounce back during challenges. Likewise, critical thinking. Likewise, number 3, complex problem solving. In a VUCA world, in a post-pandemic world, we're struggling with challenges which we never faced. So we don't have full information. So when you don't have full information, how do you solve problems which are ambiguous in nature? And if you have ability to do complex problem solving, then you have a meta skill. Therefore, you have an edge over others. So I kind of use the term meta skill. I didn't make up this term. It was coined by McKinsey and Ashoka University. So I need to give due credit to them. But I really love the term. So meta skills. So most of these are meta skills. Therefore, it's good to see World Economic Forum giving a projection of future 5 years. So we have few years left to kind of hone these skills and be ready for future. Doesn't matter which industry, which role. If you spend time on the report on World Economic Forum website, you will see the projections for various industries, roles in various industries, also very interesting. So I'm sure depending on your industry, you will find it useful. So that's one perspective. Then other perspective is pandemic led to this huge experiment I spoke about. You only live once. So what happened is now the future of work, and this is a small approach note which I've put together, talking to various people in the industry, saying the future of work needs to be looked at through 4 lenses. lens of work, the work is changing, digital transformation, fourth industrial revolution, it says the shifting paradigms of industries and business models. The preferences of workers are changing, which we saw in the earlier slide. So, future focused, employee centered, you only live once, right? Approach on holistic. Therefore, you need to, since my approach of careers are changing, so as organizations, as employees, you need to manage me differently. So you need to approach me holistically. I'll talk about that one of my last slides, and also you need to engage me differently. And the concept of workplace has changed. It's no longer a physical place where you go. It's so therefore you say the future workplace is more of a what than why, what and why rather than a where, right? Because we are talking about virtual, we're talking about remote, we're talking about hybrid or a mix, and finally blurring out boundaries ecosystem with gig economy, coming around the corner, and there's a lot of blurring of boundaries has various connotations. One is gig economy, uh, organizations coming and integrating together. You see, last 18 months, huge M&A in every industry, pharma, every industry. You see a lot of merger and acquisitions happening, and also this huge opportunity for academia and industry to come together and forge partnerships for alternate talent, alternate skills. So this is another piece which is hugely playing out on us. So with that background, winds of change, if I quickly sum it up for you. So the winds of change at fourth industrial revolution, digital transformation, and pandemic experiments. We spoke about how technology is making shifts. First time ever in the history, humans are pushed to the corner to kind of reskill themselves to catch up with technology. This is what needed for future. Meta skills are the future, irrespective of the role, skill, industry. And out of 15, 10 to 11 are real meta skills, and it takes a long time to build. And then the future of work is shifting worker, workplace ecosystem. So that's like the big picture of the winds of change. Now, with this perspective, let's deep dive into, in this context, how does an ideal career look like? It's very interesting, right? How do you define career in this overall context? So again, the three things I would bring to you note. I think the biggest headline, if you have to take away from this session is, career is all about skills. It's all about skills, and that's the future. And I'll talk more about what it means. But if you want to focus on your career, start focusing on the skills you have. The skills right now, the skills you need for future, you saw in the earlier slide, and also what are some adjacent skills you have, because industries are merging, their boundaries are blurring. So you might not just look at your primary and secondary skills, but what are some adjacent skills where you can move into? I'll talk about that when you talk about career lattice. Also, what are some skills you can carry forward from one job to another becomes really critical. So headline, it's all about skills. So the first key takeaway, be the CEO of your career. Nobody else. Doesn't matter, you work for yourself, you work for anyone, you are the CEO of your own career. So me Inc., you're the CEO for your me Inc. I'm the CEO of my own career. Therefore, plan career in increments. What would earlier we used to say, what's your 10-year vision, 5-year vision? Even in interviews, when we do behavioral event interview, we used to ask people. Now I don't ask those questions because I'm not sure what I'll do in 10 or 5 years. So, increments of maybe 12 months, 18 months, and a view to 2 to 3 years is enough, the way things are happening and as things evolve. So plan your career in increments, and increments not just in time, but mostly increments in skills, and not titles, salary, money. That's also important, but that's not the only thing. Saying, hey, 12, I'm director of learning and development. In 12 to 18 months, I want to be a VP or, a chief learning officer is good. But what skills or experiences will make me a good vice president? What skills or experience would make me a successful chief learning officer? It are the increments I need to plan for myself. Therefore, I'll end up with the title, designation, role, or whatever, right? So think in increments, but think in increments of skills first. Everything else would follow. Then you need to drill down and ask, what is my skill inventory? If I had to look at my entire career profile, how can I break down my skills into inventory and see how good I am in each one of us? That's very important. We rarely kind of do that. It's very important to start doing skill inventory. Every organization creates a skill profile and inventory for the employees, but do you do it for yourself is the question. And therefore, once you have a skill inventory, you ask the question, which of the skills I need to build a breadth of experience, in which of the skills I need to build a depth of experience. I'll talk about that in the next slide. And therefore, as I mentioned before, if I have to plan my career in increments, the most important question to ask is, what experiences will enable me to have those increments, or what career experiences, what skill experiences will help me get there? What challenges do I need to go through to hone the skills? Because most of us learn by doing. Yeah, obviously we do go to a classroom, learn something online, but 70%, at least the model 70-20-10, the numbers are not perfect, but at least it's directionally correct. Most of us learn by doing. So put yourself in situations where you face challenges, where you can try those skills different. So what challenges can you take up to hone your skills to get to the incremental progress? And finally, most important, who can support you? A mentor, a coach, a peer, a buddy, a go-to resource. That's very important, right? So let me see. I try to pull up a website. I'll see it's still loading. Maybe I'll come back later. I wanted to, since I'm a HR and learning and development professional, I thought I'll show a skill inventory which is relevant for me and my role, and keep going back to this model called American Society of Training and Development. They have this model called ATD Capability Development Model. The website is loading. Maybe Steve, I can ask you to try loading this up. If you just Google it up, ATD Capability Model, ATD Talent Development Capability Model. Maybe if it loads faster for you later, we can see. I wanted to show how I kind of plan my own career over last 1 decade comparing to the skill inventory. I'll come back to that little later. So now, moving forward, again, one, if the big headline was the future is all about skills. Now, this is how I want you to, when I mentioned plan your career in increments, plan your career in increments of skills. Now I'm breaking it down for you and giving this approach called full stack professional. We all know the technical term, I'm a Java full stack developer, or I'm a .NET full stack development, or a full stack analyst, or now we use the term full stack from technology skills. So I'm kind of borrowing the term from Jigsaw Academy. And the proposal is this. If we want to create careers for ourselves for the future, we have to become full stack professionals, and use the word professional as a placeholder. So some of you might say, I want to become a full stack engineer. Some of you might say, I want to become a full stack solution architect, or I'm a full stack manager, or a full stack salesperson, or a full stack leader, or a full stack any role, right? So replace the professional, whatever is your aspiration, you industry work with, but the concept stays the same. The concept, most importantly, is, when you call it full stack, look at it from a holistic 360 approach. And the 360 approach is what technical or functional skills you need now and future, and that's not enough. What business and financial acumen you need to be successful in that industry, to be successful, to understand how businesses work. That's very important. That's the second aspect of full stack. The third is to enable your role. What behavioral or leadership competencies would I need, including what meta skills do I need, which we saw in the earlier slide, right? Problem solving, so on and so forth. And that's not enough. Whatever role we play, technology, every company is a technology first company, or needs to be a technology first company. Every company, if they have to succeed, have to be mobile first in their solution from a technology adoption, and also think data first. So don't just think of your role as technical and functional skills of the role, domain skills, behavioral leadership skills, but also what data literacy I need to be successful in my role. How do I act like a citizen data analyst or a citizen data scientist inside my organization? Whatever is the scope of your role, right? Because data is all pervasive and sits in so many corners of the organization, and being data literate and making insights and decisions, visualizing data and drawing insights, and being a citizen data scientist or citizen data analyst as terms we use a lot. Now think of your, whatever role you are in, whatever role you want to be in. This is the full stack approach. And under each, if you sit down and reflect, you can list down skills. What are the 3 to 5 technical skills I need, 3 to 5 functional skills I need, 3 to 5 business domain skills I need, 3 to 5 financial acumen skills, 3 to 5 behavioral leadership or meta skills, and 2 to 3 data or mobile first skills. That becomes your skill inventory. So you take this as a framework, create your skill inventory, then against each skill, just rate yourself on its 3 scales. Is my proficiency level 0, which means I'm a beginner? Is my proficiency level 1, means I'm intermediate? Or and then is my proficiency level 2, which is I'm advanced? So proficiency, how proficient I am? Low, medium, high, simple. So take all these areas, list at least 3 skills under each on Excel sheet or a piece of paper and rate yourself low, medium, high, low, medium, high, low, medium, high. That becomes your skill inventory. Now with that skill inventory, plan increments, keeping in view the 2025 skills and also the skills needed for your industry. Add that to, if this is your current skill inventory, what is my 2025 skill inventory looking like? And against that, what's my proficiency level 0, 1, 2? You know where you are today as is, you know where you want to be, and you know the gap, and you have a clear personalized roadmap plan for you. So I think the future for professionals is to be full stack professionals in the broader sense of the word, and mapping your skill inventory, digging into the top skills of future, which you saw in the earlier slide, is a great way to take this forward. So now taking it one step forward. So once you build your skill inventory, some of those skills, technical, industry, behavioral, or meta skills, you need breadth of experience. Some you need to build depth of experience. And this is a very famous career model called the T-shaped model. Simple alphabet T, draw a big alphabet T and say, what are, from your skill inventory, which you made in the earlier slide, identify skills which will give you breadth of experience. Generally, they're technical skills, industry exposure, behavioral, and meta skills, as you can see through the legend. But as you grow in your career, and since most of you have over a decade of experience, as you want to, grow in your career in increments, for the increments in your career you want to make, what are the depth of skills you need to build? And generally, they tend to be industry or functional skills, behavioral or leadership, and meta skills are critical. So kind of list those. So you will see you have skill inventory, but you will also see, are you spread too thin, or are you, you don't have too much of depth? Once you take your skill inventory, extrapolate in this model, you will know if you have enough breadth of skills and enough depth of skills, or where you are lacking. And that will also give you a nice in thought of how you can plan your next 18 to 24 months of career planning. So you can look up, there are a lot of articles on T-shaped career model, but this, I think the last slide and this slide put together gives you a good idea of where you fall. But you need to sit down and do a reflection activity. I can't do it for you. I keep doing it for myself, but you have to do it for yourself. But I think with these 3 slides and the earlier slide, you have enough information to kind of sit down and do this kind of homework for yourself. So I highly recommend you map your own skill inventory, rate your own proficiency levels as is to be, and before you create as is to be, look at it through the lens of breadth and depth and see for the future role in 18 increments of it in 18 months or 24 months, how much of breadth and depth do you need? And this legends will let you know if there's a technical skill, industry function skill, behavioral leadership, meta skill, or even a data skill, data analytics skill. So that kind of helps you build a career increment plan for yourself, which is all made up of skills. And the third piece I spoke about in the when I said career is all about skills is experiences. And again, a very evolved model. Earlier, when we spoke about career growth, the term growth, career professionally, people always thought it's a vertical progression, promotions, growing up. So, but how far will you grow? There needs to be role available in your location, blah blah blah. There's so many restrictions, right? And sometimes these are just, in most cases, sometimes your title changes, but you're still doing the same work. Maybe you get a little paid a little more, right? So it's very important, as I mentioned earlier, look for experiences which will help you build that increments. Therefore, introducing the concept of career lattice. So like lattice is like a intermeshing of things you see on the center. So to get the skills you need from the skill inventory you plotted for the T, breadth and depth, you need to ask yourself, in my organization, in my current role, can I do a project Laterally, can I get a skill by doing a diagonal role or doing a project, or can I do a move up, then move down or move, sidewise, be very comfortable to kind of move across the lattice. There's no right vertical progression path. It's a lattice you need to navigate yourself. And the fourth thing, five things to keep in mind. Sometimes in the career lattice, you move vertically, you look for opportunities which will give you vertical growth, generally more seniority, more accountability, more responsibility, so on and so forth. Sometimes it's a lateral movement inside the organization in a different role or a different function. Sometimes it's a lateral movement across in the industry, you leave the organization, join somewhere. Sometimes it's job enrichment, so you keep adding to your role, you add to your existing role. And sometimes it's realignment. You kind of take a step back and say, I looked at the top 15 skills of the future. Now let me go and invest in myself through the organization or personally, and build the skill of AI ML or build the skill of lifelong learning, so on and so forth. Sometimes it's also realignment, which we need to do. Some people go back to business school, some people do learning as they go, which is more needed now, because I don't know how ready business schools are with so much changing in the world. It is not a good time to, in my opinion, I could be wrong, to go back to business schools. You could learn a lot by just talking to people and identifying what are those skills. And there's so many learning opportunities we have where you can learn while you work. So again, an operating keyword is experiences. And if you see the title, it says your personalized choice of experiences. So based on the skill entry and the journey you want to make in your career, plan your personalized choices of experiences and be comfortable to move vertically, laterally, inside, outside, enrichment, also realignment. To give my own example, a couple of years back, I was in a mid-management role, senior manager, leading a team of 20 trainers inside our organization, managing the entire portfolio of managerial development for around 20,000 managers in a huge, one of the top 5 IT organizations in the country. After I spent a couple of years in the role, I took on a talent management role in a global MNC. This role was Indian, a global MNC, where I joined as a manager, talent management. So I moved from senior manager to manager. So you've seen that is coming down a little. And I took an individual contributor role. So I kind of left my people management aspect, and there I built my breadth of experience from learning to talent management. Did that for 4 years, got global exposure, learned talent management, and then after that again moved to become a senior manager there. And then after that made another career choice. Then I realized I've learned enough talent management in the breadth and built my learning and learning depth. Now I need to manage a team again because I was losing all the skills of managing teams. So that's when I made another shift to become a director of learning in different organizations. So as you move through career, it's not just about titles, it's not just about designations, it's about the experiences you need. And that's how you need to plan your career. And career lattice really helps to keep those 4 things in mind: vertical, lateral, enrichment, and realignment. So again, if I had to quickly summarize the second section, what's an ideal career? There's no ideal career. You need to personalize it for yourself, and it's all about skills. So we said be the CEO of your own career. Skills of future, start with building your own skill inventory. Start with the future, the full stack framework and T model, integrating those two. Look at your skill inventory, current and future. Look at where you need to build depth of experience, where you need to build breadth, and consider what experiences you need and follow the career lattice. So show the full stack here: technical, functional, business, behavioral, leadership, data. Could be other things relevant for your industry, could be certain certifications, could be some other domain knowledge, could be regional knowledge, sometimes could be cultural knowledge, language skills, could be some additional add-ons there. That makes it a full stack approach. And then do your skill inventory and then review it from breadth and depth and consider where you need to have more breadth, more spread in increments, not more than 18 to 24 months. Don't think beyond that as of now. Maybe later, yes, but not now. Then think of experiences you need and plan vertical, lateral, enrichment, realignment. Think of career as a lattice, not just as a lateral progression. Now, to enable all this, we need to become a lifelong learner. And a couple of inputs I would like to add is Metaskills, as I mentioned before. You saw in the top 15 skills of the future, it's important to build Metaskills. And 3 Metaskills I think are really critical to practice every day, starting today's growth mindset. I'll talk about that in next slide. And agility. Agility kind of comes from growth mindset, but also ability to kind of move faster, adapt as things go, and emotional intelligence and resilience, which we saw as a huge need, especially in a post-pandemic world. And to build growth mindset, once we talk about growth mindset, generally people ask, yes, it's a great concept. Now, how do I build growth mindset? The answer is by being curious. And I'll talk about the three sides of being curious. And there's an assessment all of you can take. And finally, when things are ambiguous, you always have to start with yourself. Remember, me, Inc., you're the CEO of your own organization. So you need to ask three simple questions, very powerful questions. What are my values? What are my strengths? And what's my purpose and legacy? I know the word purpose and legacy sound very heavy, but it's worth asking yourself, what's your purpose personally, professionally, and what legacy you want to leave behind? Because you know what? You only live once. We live in a YOLO world, right? So, so from a Metaskills perspective, embracing growth mindset is really critical. So there are two types of mindset, fixed mindset and growth mindset. This concept got introduced by Carol Dweck in the book Mindset. I highly recommend you read this book. You look up TED Talks. There are quite a few TED Talks done by her. She worked with school children who were failing in their school, and she just tweaked, the mindset of the kids to say, who started telling themselves, I'm not good in mathematics, I'm not good in English, I'm not good in science. So she started doing this simple experiment. So when you give the scorecard to the kids in the school, you give grades, right? A, B, C, D, E, F, or whatever happens in each country. She started replacing the grades of kids who got low scores. Instead of saying failed or grade F, she started using the term not yet. And that's the growth mindset. If you have to summarize, it's the power of not yet. You're not there yet, but you're on the journey, which means you're going to embrace challenges, embrace obstacles, put in effort. Talent cannot replace effort. Effort can multiply talent, but talent cannot replace effort. Just because you're skilled doesn't mean you can't put effort, especially effort can multiply talent. And embrace failure. Failure is not the end of things. Failure is a stepping stone, and then embrace criticism. And finally, in find inspiration in other successes. Don't feel threatened. So if you look at kind of start doing those and take the not yet mindset, then you'll realize the abilities you have are not static. They can be built and developed. For example, if you go back to neuroscience, we have over 3 billion synapse connections which form in our brain pretty young. By 4 to 5 to 7 years, 3 billion connections form. But with practice, even as you grow older, as you become adults, you can create new synapse connections in your mind, which means your worldview, your perceptions, the way you look at things, the way you solve problems, the way you deal with your emotions can be changed. But it takes effort, takes discipline, and that's why think on the right hand side. Abilities can be developed, challenge should be embraced, persist in face of obstacles, value effort. Do not efforts multiply talent. Talent cannot replace effort. And seek opportunities for growth in failure and embrace criticism and find inspiration from other success. That's when you are on journey of growth mindset, which is really important because if you have to build skills of lifelong learning, which we saw, all those 15 skills, you need to have skills of you need to have this ability to embrace growth mindset. Now, to do this, the first step to embrace growth mindset is to build curiosity. Now, especially in a world which is changing so much with so much of winds of change, it's really important to stay curious. So curiosity can be broken down to three things. How curious am I about myself, my emotional intelligence, self-awareness? Reflection is very important. Journaling, take time every week to reflect what went well, what did not go well, what can you do differently. Or three simple words: start, stop, continue. What can I start doing differently? What can I stop doing from today? And what should I continue doing? So curiosity about yourself, curiosity about people, and curiosity about the world. And there's a simple free assessment. If you Google, go to Global Curiosity Institute. You can take the free assessment. You'll get your own report. I took my own report last year and working on my own curiosity quotient. It gives you advice also of what areas you have to build on. For example, I got pretty decent scores on a scale of 100, over 17, all the three. But my least score is curiosity about others, and I'm kind of working on it to get more curious with people. So And then the last and most important piece in a post-pandemic world where you only live once, it's important to bring your whole self to your career. It's important to bring your whole. You can't leave part of you at home, because most of us are working from home, right? So you have to bring your whole self to career. So when you think of your career goals, career aspirations, start putting, when you think of your purpose, when you think of your legacy, you think of your goals you want for 18 months, 24 months, ensure these four aspects of your whole person, which is about you, are addressed. Ensure you're getting the right intellectual alignment in the job role you want to do, in the career you want to have, which means your talent and strengths should be used, your skills should be developed, and you should be engaged creatively. Ensure you have psychological safety, which means you feel grounded, you feel anchored, you feel safe, you feel you are treated fair, with fairness, and your health and well-being is taken care. And ensure you have an emotional alignment, right? So that you're surrounding with people who treat you with empathy, people who engage you to understand your motivations and aspirations, people who invoke loyalty in you, trust in you, and finally, where you feel you can grow outside your role and start volunteering for causes which are important. And finally, find alignment with your spirit, which is your purpose and alignment. Are my personal values aligned to values of this organization? Is my personal vision enriched by working for the vision of this organization? And finally, the $1 million question: what's what's the legacy I want to leave behind, and can this work with this career in this role help me build my legacy, which is adding meaning and contributions? So don't just think of career as something outside you. Start with your own values, your own strengths, your personal vision. So the whole world is moving to this. The whole organizations now, to engage people, need to treat employees as whole persons, look at through the lens of whole person paradigm. So now organizations are thinking how to engage minds of employees, engage, psychological safety, heart and spirit. Let them do their job, but when you plan for your own career, look at it from whole person perspective, so that you find fulfillment in your own goals, purpose, values, right? So that's my last comment I want to make. So if I had to quickly summarize the third section about being lifelong learner, build Metaskills, start by growth mindset. We spoke a lot about the power of not yet. Then start with curiosity, go and take your curiosity assessment from Global Curiosity Institute. You'll get report across these three sections. Based on your scores, have a plan and work towards improving as I'm doing it myself. And finally, when you think of your career goals, the purpose and legacy, bring your whole person to it. So therefore, any career, any job, you have a vision for yourself 18, 24 months from now. It needs to have intellectual alignment with your mind, psychological safety for your body to anchor it, emotional alignment to your heart, and purpose and alignment to bring your spirit alive in everything you do. So that's what I wanted to cover. Those are the coordinates through which you can reach me. You can scan the QR code, connect to me through LinkedIn, or drop in a note to me. But I'll turn it over to Steve now, and if we have a few minutes, we can take some Q&A.
All right, thank you. So Anil, that was a fantastic presentation, and getting a lot of great comments and questions. And I'd like to, before we do that, I'm going to share my screen again. So if you'll bear with me. And we'll ask the audience a poll question.
Sure.
Okay. So this two-part question, get the poll going. Hold on a second. And there we go. Again, if you're watching on streaming, you can put answers in the comments, but you should, if you're watching through WebEx, you should have the widget up. And we're asking, what skills are you most interested in learning? Outside of the meta skills, these are more particular technology and management skills, but as Anil pointed out, the Metaskills that he discussed are
It
equally,
takes
if
a
not
lifetime.
more
Yeah, it
important.
takes a lifetime. So there's
Yeah.
no stopping here.
And you can see that today's audience is very interested in project management type skills, as well as data science and AI. But across the board, there are folks interested in various aspects. And it's good to see that more than a third of you are interested in doing that right away. So,
And Steve, if I can make a quick comment, this kind of aligns really well with research from World Economic Forum, where the top 3 technologies adopted at scale are cloud, analytics, and AI/ML. So clearly, it's aligned to what's happening across the industry too. Yeah.
All right. So rather than make everybody stare at that, stop sharing for a moment. Let everybody stare at my face instead. And we'll talk about questions that came up. We have various questions that came from our LinkedIn audience as well. So how do we keep up with rapid change when technology evolves too fast? And how do you choose the right skills? Mary Grace would like.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great question. So, I mean, there's no choice. I mean, you saw the competition between technology and humans, right? We need to keep up with the rapid change. What I would highly recommend is start building the skill of learning agility. So, um, um, Steve, I'm sorry, I'm going to give name of another digital platform, but apologies. So there's this famous MOOC course called Learning How to Learn. It's also a book, and if you look up, it's in one of the famous digital platforms. It's a free MOOC course. I highly recommend for everyone go and do that course called. It's actually most signed up course in this platform, Learning How to Learn. I think the more we learn how to learn, then we'll cope to learn faster with new technologies and gives. I read the book Learning How to Learn with my 9-year-old. The book is written for kids too. So I would recommend, there's no other choice. We need to learn how to learn faster, build learning agility. So I would highly recommend building that meta skill straight away.
And Vijay asks an interesting question. What would your suggestion be for somebody who has extensive 15 years of IT experience in data warehouse? Would you advise them, how would you advise them to grow their career or pursue their career?
Yeah, I think, if in the career lattice slide, there was a last option called realignment, right? If you want to realign, you could look at broader industry. For example, the whole industry of analytics. Again, from an IT, you can combine analytics as AI, ML, and analytics together. But just look at the area of analytics has entire progression of careers. And if I had to split it into 4 kind of broader role categories. So from data analyst to data wrangler, from data wrangler to data operations to data scientist is a huge career path. And if you have over 10, 15 years experience in data warehouse, you should look at a potential role or career realignment into becoming a data scientist if that interests you. So please look it up. And I'm sure somebody like Simplilearn has quite a few learning content on that. So yeah, you can look it up from a roadmap perspective.
Related question first from Panushi, who asks, what factors should one consider in order to plan out realignment? What are the things that you should look at in yourself, in your career, and then in planning?
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant question, and the answer is highly personalized. But I think let's take an outside-in view first. think of, if you do a little bit of Google search, the new roles of future and which roles are getting declined, you go back to World Economic Forum report I mentioned, you'll see there are a lot of roles which are getting declined in next couple of years. So look at your current role and see what are the chances that your role, how much percent of your role can be automated. And if it's more than 40%, then I think you should start thinking of realignment, because if computers can do what you're doing, then your job is obviously at risk. And um, there's this, forgetting name of the author. So there's this guy who was head of Google in China. He left that, now he runs his own VC, and he recently published a book of evolution of AI, and he did some couple of podcasts. If you look him up, his prediction, and it's his prediction, it's not in this report. His prediction is in next 3 to 4 years, a lot of when we talk about roles getting automated, many of us think the blue collar roles, roles in factories, or people who are doing lower rung of the ladder kind of roles will get automated. But his prediction is, first it will start, the first wave will hit with the white collar jobs, because most of the roles we are doing in white collar jobs, more than 40% of your role can be automated, then your role is at risk. So I would definitely look at a realignment right there. So do a little bit of research, start with World Economic Forum, and then that's the outside in approach. Now, inside out approaches, you need to invest in this learning, which is important. You have to build a discipline of lifelong learner and build growth mindset, which some of us learn faster, some take time, but there's no choice. The sooner we start, the better. Yeah.
Mata has a question regarding the T-shaped profile, which is the question is versatility and knowledge in many domains a good or bad skill to have?
So versatility is nothing but breadth, in my opinion, right? Because that gives breadth. Now, knowledge is a tricky one. Wikipedia is knowledge. A college-going kid can pull out more, write a nice white paper. So, gone are the days. When I was a kid, I used to walk into my uncle's home and see this huge hardbound Britannica encyclopedias, and used to get amazed. Wow, the whole knowledge of the world is stored in a room, and which only few people could buy. But now knowledge is for free. So is knowledge a differentiator? I don't think so. Versatility, yes, because everybody can pick knowledge. What's important is applied skills. Can you actually apply the skills, and how faster can you learn and apply is a differentiator. Versatility always helps. Having a breadth always helps, but you have to balance that with depth also. Yeah, knowledge is good to learn where the industry is going. It helps you be more curious, but you have to build more than that. Yeah.
Many decades ago, when I was an engineering student, I remember taking an electrical engineering final, and the professor said, you can bring in a 3 inch by 5 inch card, and you can write whatever you want on both sides, as much as you like, if you think that will help you pass this final. And the way to do it was you write in the forms of formulas. You don't write in answers to questions, because the way to pass the final is to recognize what a particular question was asking and which answer, not the specific data that they were asking for, but what formula applied to that. So
Exactly.
that was a valuable lesson of knowing how to look at the problem rather than how to look for the solution. So
Exactly.
We have a question about
I would like to take the last question. I'll take that last comment. It got posted twice about parenting affecting the career.
Okay.
Yeah, I think what I would like to say is, now many organizations are very open to career breaks now. Earlier they were like, kind of cynical to say, hey, why do you have a career break, so on and so forth. But now if you look at Gen Ys, they actually take pride in taking career break and traveling across the world. I know many of my friends and colleagues who've been doing that, and people take breaks for being caretakers, taking care of their family members, or could be parenting, could be kids, could be higher education. Now it's a fairly normal thing. So don't worry about it. Take pride in the reason why you had to move away from career and take care of things. Talk about it. and the industry is vibrantly open now. There's so many openings now out there. So people are looking for alternate talent. So don't worry about that at all. Take pride in the reason you took a break and talk about it. You don't have to hide anything. And I think industry is also embracing that from a diversity and inclusion perspective also.
If you have time, I'd like to ask a couple of people ask about the future of sales and marketing and that domain. Do you see that as a growth domain?
Definitely. So if you, when I did the earlier session, I did have some slides on that from World Economic Forum. See, marketing obviously will have a huge, from digital transformation, will be more digital marketing focused. So, if you look at a company like Google, they have this website called Rework, REWRK, Rework. All the best practices they have in Google, they publish for free. In fact, I subscribe to a couple of marketing courses from Google, which they give out for free. If you're interested, you should look them up. Sales, very interestingly, if you go back to World Economic Forum's report, what it says is sales is one of those industries in next couple of years they'll be open to taking people from other industries. Sales is one of those industries which will be extremely open to invite people from others. So there you go, which means the roles are opening up, or there is a gap in the field, right? It's a combination of both. So they're both open to embracing skills, means there are transferable skills involved, and also there's a lot of things happening. So go back to World Economic Forum. There's a section on sales you should read up. But I think based on what I've seen, it's that's what I can share. Yeah.
Okay. We have a question from the YouTube audience about, is there a centralized resource or a place, single place that you would ask somebody to start when they're starting out on their journey of self-improvement?
Oh, that's a tough question. I think there's so many learning resources, so many MOOCs. Start with the curiosity assessment I told you. There's another website called Values in Action, viacharacter.org. If you go there, you can take a free self-assessment on your personal values. So I would say start with Values in Action, character.org, and then Global Curiosity Institute. Take those 2 free assessment, but nothing can replace reflection. I would highly recommend time for self-reflection, and the best way to self-reflect is journaling your thoughts, putting it on a piece of paper. I know we all transition to digital journaling, and there's an interesting research which says when you make notes on a digital equipment compared to making notes on a piece of paper, when you make notes on a piece of paper, different parts of your brain get activated, which don't get activated when you use a mobile phone. So do old school, sit down, have some reflection time, and do journaling once a week. Simple 3 questions: start, stop, continue. Based on what happened this week, what should I start doing? What should I stop doing? What should I continue doing? It doesn't hurt to have a mentor or a coach. So feel free to reach out to people. Unless you reach out to them and ask for support, nobody's going to help out. So feel free. Great avenues like LinkedIn, you can just reach out to people and you will be happy to see how many people are willing to support you.
Okay. I think the last question, because we did have a question from a PhD in computer science who's been working as an assistant professor. I think his question is about realignment, and I think you've addressed that. So I want to ask a different question from someone.
Just comment from people from academia is there's a huge need to have stronger partnership with corporations and the other way around too. I think there's a huge gap in academia and corporate. So do your bit if you want to continue in academia. Try to build partnerships. Now, organizations are more willing to build partnerships. The skills of future, doing POCs, POVs. I personally partnered with a MBA school in India, and then we recently did a huge study on diversity and inclusion, and I'm working with them to publish a couple of case studies. So you learn a lot of things in those partnerships. And one MBA graduate actually taught me analytics in the process. I learned a lot in the whole process. I'm extremely proud of it. So.
And that's very good advice for this particular individual, because they've moved between industry and academia. So it's encouraging that you're talking about the fluidity of being able to move back and forth and combine the two. The last question I wanted to take from a YouTube user is someone who is studying both networking and software engineering on their own. And the question is it better to focus on one or the other or continue to do both?
I think both for now, because the way entire cloud and infrastructure space is evolving, it doesn't hurt to be a networking guy with some coding, and then now cloud is evolving to DevOps, and DevOps is evolving. There's so many new roles coming up in cloud too, where knowing how to code would help. And if you want to make the career other way around in development and have cloud anyway, now all native apps, all offline apps are now cloud native apps, so it's going to help you that way too. So you're starting with networking. I would say pick a few more skills in cloud. You could pick an AWS or Azure or Google, any of the CSPs, but that wouldn't hurt. So that's what I would say.
Excellent. So we've kept you a little bit over time, and I wanted to thank you very, very much. I know for, as I said, an excellent presentation, very engaged audience. And the people who've asked for the presentation, we will be sending out a link to a recording of this event.
I'll send the PDF slides also to you if it helps you leave it up there.
That's very gracious.
And if there's a way to, I know there are quite a few questions in chat and Q&A. If there's a way to download them and send, maybe I'll even try to respond to some of them.
I will do that. Yes, we do have a record of that from WebEx. So yes. So thank you very much for that. And showing on the screen your LinkedIn. I've also dropped that into the chat previously, so people can connect with you. And of course, you put up your QR code. And I wanted to thank everybody for being in our audience today. We do encourage you to connect with us on our social media channels at Simplilearn on LinkedIn, and we will be having more webinars in this series. We have career webinars, we have technical webinars on specific domains. We have other webinars coming up on career strategy, and we'll be inviting you to those. So keep an eye out for that. We hope to have you join us, and we hope to see you as part of our Simplilearn learning family in the future. Thank you all very, very much, and thanks again to Anil.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I always enjoy these interactions. So thank you. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Bye.